How should an entrepreneur evaluate whether they need funding in the first place or not?
ये तो बड़ा भारी भयंकर सवाल पूछा आपने. When I first built out Shaadi.com, I built it on capital as well. But you know where my early capital came from?
What is the simplest way to validate an idea?
People say this is a $10 billion market. Even if I get 1% of it, I'll make 100 million. That's just a whole bag of shit.
How do you build a brand for India 3 and India 2?
India is highly unbranded in every category. Bangalore is great at building great products. But businesses, I'm not so sure. Bangalore की जितनी companies हैं सब unprofitable. Most of the profitable companies are in Mumbai and in Delhi.
Is that every industry that we now see growing is already being dominated by China either on the front end or the back end. China invested billions of dollars to buy cobalt mines. If you want cobalt, you will have to go to China one with the other. Even when it comes to solar ingots, we are dependent 99% on China.
China has been the factory of the world for the last 25-30 years. China is now bottlenecking on the resource front. So they have a lot of access to resources that other countries don't.
What's going to grow in the next 10 years in India?
India is broken in every segment. Old paradigm is dead of America's dominance. And what you are moving towards is a multipolar world.
How do you evaluate an entrepreneur?
लोगों की धज्जियां उड़ जाती. कोई वेले थोड़ी बैठे हैं तुम्हारे लिए खोल के दुकान.
Have you made investments through a DM or a cold email? Is there a particular framework that you would recommend for hiring? If they were to pitch to you, what should they do?
I'm giving you a framework to think about.
Before we move on, let me thank Odoo for supporting our content. If you're a founder or if you handle admin work, you know the pain of endless paperwork, chasing signatures, and hours wasted on follow-ups. But what if you could wrap it all up in minutes from anywhere? Well, that is where Odoo eSign comes in. It is a fast, secure, and paperless way to send, sign, and approve documents online so that there is no need for printing or scanning documents. With Odoo eSign, you can customize any document in seconds, add signers, drag and drop fields like name, date, and signature. It also allows you to set signing order so that there is no confusion at all. Odoo will automatically set reminders to politely chase people so that you don't have to do that. It also allows you to sign from anywhere, whether that's a phone, tablet, or laptop. And most importantly, it's also legally compliant in over 100 countries. And you can track all the documents and find in real time if the signature is pending, signed, or declined. And you also get instant notifications as soon as the signature is complete. And here's the founder-friendly part. The first app is free for life with hosting and support included. So whether it's a contract, an NDA, or that deal that you've been chasing for months, you can get it signed without the drama. So if you find this useful, hit the link in the description and try Odoo eSign today. How should an entrepreneur evaluate whether they need funding in the first place or not?
But the question of whether you should raise capital or not is a question of what do you want out of life. For example, unless you fall in love and chemical reaction happens and you marry somebody, if you plan to get married, it becomes a life question. No? What do you want out of life? Without answering that question, you cannot decide to get married.
Correct.
So in the same way, when you decide to raise capital, it is that level of seriousness of a question. In fact, more so. ये आजकल लाइफ पार्टनर के साथ भी डिवोर्स करना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं. Because when you raise capital, few things happen. You create an obligation with your investors to return that capital at some X implied return. At the bare minimum, 30% IRR. Equity capital is expensive. बैंक में आपको 8-10%, 12%, 15%, 18% में भी पैसा मिल जाएगा NBFC से. लेकिन इन्वेस्टर मिनिमम 30% IRR एक्सपेक्ट करता है पर राइट. एज अ स्टार्टअप इन्वेस्टर, अर्ली स्टेज इन्वेस्टर्स लाइक मी एक्सपेक्ट 50% IRR. If you have to deliver a return of 50% IRR at the bare minimum, you probably want to be growing 100% year on year for the next 5 years. And then maybe a 50% year on year for the next 5 years after that.
Yeah.
To deliver that kind of return. So, uske liye, you have to now hire a great team. You have to have a GTM of growth and scale because you cannot return anybody a 30% or a 40% or a 50% return without a growth agenda. And growth brings with it need of more capital, especially very high growth. So as soon as you raise capital from somebody, from an organized VC or an angel investor, you take on the obligation for the next 10 years of doing all these things. Yes, exceptions can happen you might get bought out in 18 months like YouTube was by Google, but those are exceptions. Those are not the rule. तो आपने 10 साल तो कमिट कर दिए और इंडिया में तो मैं कहूँगा 15-20 साल कमिट कर दिए, because it takes longer. You have committed now 10 years to this investor and other investors being your partners. तो मतलब इनसे हर महीने बात करनी है, उठना है, बैठना है. And this founding team where you will spend 2/3 of your life. घर जाओगे सिर्फ सोने when you're building a startup. You don't have much more time than that.
Yeah.
So obviously you have to have an understanding partner and all that goes along with it. So I think the choice of raising capital is a choice of what type of life you want. Having said that, to get more specific, I think there are a couple of things. Raising capital is not the only way to build a business. Or actually, let me say that differently. When we talk about raising capital, of course, capital is required in some form, way, or means when you're building a business. It might be small capital, it might be large capital. It depends on your ambition and the industry that you're operating in, the characteristics of that industry. But people often assume that equity capital is the only form of capital available.
Yeah.
And that is a huge mistake, because the things I spoke about in terms of the obligations that you take on of 30% IRR and returning and signing up for raising subsequent rounds of capital all come with equity capital. Equity capital means you have to drive high growth. But there are other forms of capital. So for example, when I first built out Shaadi.com, I built it on capital as well. But you know where my early capital came from? It came from my customers.
Okay.
It's the cheapest form of capital because you give away no interest. You give away no equity. Equity capital is the most expensive, by the way, as I just mentioned. So you don't give any of that away. And you get validation. That means somebody is voting with their wallet, not with their voice. बोलने के लिए आप दोस्तों के पूछोगे because they like you, or you ask family, friends when you're launching a product, क्या लगता है? सब कहेंगे अच्छा है. Right? Because they want you to be successful. But the real validation comes when people vote with their wallet.
Yeah.
So not only do you get validation, you also get free capital. A lot of companies in India have been built, B2B, a lot of B2B businesses are built with customer capital. Like services companies, right? They almost always build with customer capital. Yeah. You have some technical ability or some other ability and you go and you try to get your first customer, and that's where you keep building on from. Of course, you may need more working capital and so on, but that's secondary. So that's one form of capital. The other form of capital, of course, is friends and family and fools.
Friends and family and fools.
Of course. Okay. You have to be foolish to invest in somebody's idea because 9 times out of 10 is going to fail. Right. So in some form or way, every friend and family is a fool. Right, but that's okay. You're not trying to fool them. They just happen to be fools for investing.
True.
Right? You're trying to actually build something big or something good that will return them their capital. But friends and families have very different expectations than VCs and angels. Their expectation is not 30% IRR. Their expectation is to see you succeed. And in the bargain, if they make their money back with some return, they'll be twice as happy.
Yeah.
Right. So that now becomes a slightly different choice of life. If you think you just need a few crores or a couple of crores and you're launching a brand or you have a way of building some sort of intellectual property that nobody can replicate, you should be seeking out that capital. Because it's patient capital, doesn't require as much return. You're not signing up for the 10-20 year journey that I described earlier. Then comes debt, and there are all forms. There is bank debt, very good, but banks usually want some sort of guarantee, a personal guarantee, and so that can, but these days that's changing, right? And then you have these government schemes, and now government schemes, especially for women entrepreneurs, SMEs, there are so many of these CGT, SME is one, and there are several. मैं तो एक बार कहीं बैठा हुआ था, परेशान हो गया सुन के, मतलब शार्क टैंक पे लास्ट सीजन, इनफैक्ट मैंने पूछा भी ये क्वेश्चन, क्योंकि हर पिक्चर जो आता था, एवरी सेकंड और थर्ड पिक्चर, वी यूज्ड टू आस्क ऑलवेज कि भाई आपने फंडिंग ली है? जैसे नहीं फंडिंग नहीं ली, लेकिन ये ग्रांट मिला ये वाली स्कीम से गवर्नमेंट। आई सेड भाई ये गवर्नमेंट कितने पैसे दे रही है? But it's great. I think it's wonderful that they're funding our small female entrepreneurs and SMEs and so on. So that is another wonderful source of capital, because some of them are just grants and some of them are debt at very low interest rates.
Yeah. Sir, Yoga Bar was built with this capital.
Is that right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Government grant.
There you go.
In fact, she actually told me that because of that capital, we actually got the confidence, because the documentation was so intricate that we got a validation of the documentation itself.
Amazing. I didn't know this, but I learned something new today. So there are many companies like that. BIRAC, for example, funds a lot of healthcare initiatives. CGT, SME, जो मैंने कहा था आपको, that is the central government, something for SMEs, right? And there are many such schemes. So one should always explore those fully. वो free का पैसा है भाई, क्यों छोड़ते हो? है ना? Because government thinks entrepreneurship is देश की सेवा.
Correct.
तो आप देश की सेवा कर रहे हो तो पहले गवर्नमेंट के पास जाओ.
Correct. So you're saying that पहले कस्टमर से लो,
cheapest.
नहीं हुआ तो गवर्नमेंट से लो,
नहीं हुआ तो फ्रेंड्स फैमिली एंड फूड्स.
ओके, और नहीं हुआ तो फिर बैंक.
नहीं, you can go either way, but फ्रेंड्स फैमिली दे रहे हैं कुछ पैसा, 50 लाख ही सही POC करने के लिए, and you don't want to take on obligations, you are still testing, POC है आपको, maybe it's a small amount, maybe it's 10 lakhs, I don't know, right? So that's a good place to start, and then you go there. Then there are NBFCs, but for that you need a working model.
Correct.
कि आपका थोड़ा बहुत revenue होना चाहिए, profitability होनी चाहिए, तो NBFCs and revenue based financing companies will finance you. Working capital loans you can get. तो बहुत से options है. It depends on what you are trying to build and what life you are signing up. अगर आप ऐसी competitive space में जा रहे हो, for example, if you want to build an AI product company, AI is hot these days.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot build an AI product company without raising a lot of capital.
Correct.
Possible नहीं है. हाँ, exceptions सब चीज में होते हैं. But more likely than not, you're going to fail. So then you're making a lifestyle decision कि मैं अगले 10-15 साल ये बनाऊंगा. Right? And that becomes your purpose in life.
Got it. So you spoke about idea validation. What is the simplest way to validate an idea? Because every other person has a different idea and they find it very difficult to validate it. In fact, several times I've had multiple ideas even before starting this, and there was no way to validate it. Is there a framework for idea validation?
Yeah, we can make it very simple. Most people unfortunately think of idea validation, मतलब इतना heavy word हो जाता है ना, कि लोग सोचते हैं इसमें professionals लाना है, research करना है, ये सब कुछ नहीं करना है तुमको. The world is so digitally connected nowadays that it's very easy to validate ideas, at least to some extent. One of the easiest ways is to create a WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Zero cost. Create a WhatsApp group of a few hundred people. Friends, family, fools, acquaintances. Let's say you are launching a spicy sauce. Tabasco nahi hai world mein. Tabasco has become the number one spicy sauce. I feel like somebody in India should create an equivalent spicy sauce.
Yeah.
And take on the world. Like in India mein kya hai? Log ek cheez banate hain, then they want to become a food company, then they want to become. So if you want to be a one product company, that's a side narrative, let's forget about that. But let's say you want to launch the spicy sauce. आप एक WhatsApp group create कीजिए. Get a few hundred people on it. Then use AI to generate images, again free. Images of this bottle, what it stands for, the positioning, the branding, just coming up. You don't have to go to any professionals. अगर आपको करना है, if you're passionate about this, you have figured out, you've seen the best of the world already.
Yeah.
अगर वो ही नहीं किया, then you have no right to start. You should not be starting up. You should be working for somebody, or you should be doing some job somewhere or something else. Right. But if you want to start, then my working assumption is, you have done all your research. आपने benchmark कर लिया, आपने पूरी दुनिया छान ली कि इसमें चीज कैसे बन सकती है. फिर आप वो कोलैटरल लो, इमेजेस लो, वीडियोस लो, जो भी आप बनाते हो या यूज करो, वो ग्रुप पे डालो. डोंट से मच, जस्ट लीड विथ what you think the finished product will be. Just ask people, what do you think of this? And you can extract some of these group members from where, go to facebook.com and join food lovers. Go to instagram.com, follow handles that are catering to foodies. Go to WhatsApp group and Reddit and join these communities. वहां से आप लोग लाओ, because they have no sympathy for you.
Yeah.
So they'll be more honest with you. Right? Not all will join, but a few will join. And then start sharing images. Ask them what they think, why they think what they think. Right. So I think that's one easy hack, very low cost. The other one that I think, to go to the next step of validation, which has become now very easy. आप Replit use करो, या Lovable use करो, या अभी अजहर ने भी एक कंपनी स्टार्ट की AI प्रोडक्ट बनाने की. we use, I forget the name, थोड़ा Finado यूज करो और एक साइट बना लो. नो प्रोडक्ट, नो इन्वेंट्री, नथिंग. आपके पास सिर्फ इमेजेस है, वीडियोस है, बट साइट शुड लुक लाइक there's a real company behind it and real products. ठीक है, और आप माल बेचना शुरू कर दो.
Okay.
So you don't have anything to sell, but you have an ability for somebody to place an order. उससे आपको validation मिलेगा, how many people will pay for it. Of course, when the money comes in, return the money. Right? And say we are not yet ready. और जो भी आपको बोलना है, say we'd love you to be an early customer and we'll keep you in the database or whatever. But you'll get instant validation. How many people are willing to pay for this and what price are they willing to? You can run different tests on it. So you can gather a lot of data.
So then how would you do this for a service company? Like, can you give me like this example of...
नहीं, एक बार मैं just didn't finish. I'll give you another example, right?
Okay.
Anything today, especially if you're in the product space, right? If you're D2C founders, entrepreneurs बहुत होते हैं आजकल, because the barriers to get in have become small in the sense that infrastructure and the rails are already there. Shipping के लिए आपको मारामारी नहीं करनी पड़ती है, payment के लिए नहीं करनी पड़ती है. Everything is plug and play.
Yeah.
ठीक है? If you make, let's say, nut butter. I see a lot of people making nut butters these days. Almond butter. भाई, एक बैच बनाना कौन सा मुश्किल है अपने घर में. उसके ज़्यादा पैसे नहीं लगते. बादाम का क्या भाव है? मरमरा मत लाओ, सस्ता वाला ले आओ. ठीक है, बनाओ एक दो बैच, फिर अपनी कम्युनिटीज में, यू विल बी मेंबर ऑफ सम कम्युनिटीज ना, इफ नॉट डिजिटल, इवन फिजिकल कम्युनिटीज. आप कहीं जाते होगे कोई स्पोर्ट्स खेलने, वहां पे बुलेटिन बोर्ड्स होते हैं. आप कोई बिल्डिंग में रहते हो तो वहां भी बुलेटिन बोर्ड्स होते हैं. चिपकाओ बुलेटिन बोर्ड पे, सेलिंग XYZ, कॉल फॉर दिस नंबर, दिस प्राइस. That's your start. These are low cost, great ways to validate and gain confidence in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. But to your next question, service companies. Service companies is about faking it till you make it.
Okay.
Fake it till you make it.
Okay.
We started as a service company. So when I started, besides customer capital, I also started an IT services company जिस हम दूसरों के लिए वेबसाइट बनाते थे. हर ईरा में, हर 10 साल कुछ ना कुछ नया आता है जो लोगों को बनवाना है और उनके पास कैपेबिलिटी नहीं होती है. And generally speaking, these things are not that hard to do. It is just that most people don't want to get started, or they feel it's very hard to do, so it's a stumbling block. So if you can get in there and create the perception that you know what you're doing, even if you don't, right? And you can deliver, you're the kind of person who will live up to their promise, and you'll figure out how. Create the site, create the deck, create the vaporware and go sell. तो हमने जब IT सर्विसेज कंपनी शुरू की, वी हैड लाइक 2-3 इंजीनियर्स, नॉट, उनको इंजीनियर भी नहीं बोल सकते, राइट, 2-3 डिजाइनर थे, 5,000 रुपये की सैलरी थी उनको। तो और मैं चाहता था टू सेल टू कंपनीज वेबसाइट एंड सम बैक एंड स्टफ एंड अ शॉपिंग इंजन एंड ये वो कैसा बनाना है वो बाद में देखेंगे, राइट। हमें यही था कि बेचना है कुछ।
कैसे बेचते थे सर आप?
We used to figure out what somebody needs. Right?
Okay.
We used to do. See, first of all, as I said, when there is a hype, every 10 odd years, there is some hype cycle where people don't know how to get started. तो 20 साल पहले वो था वेबसाइट बनानी, सबको वेबसाइट बनानी है and they want to sell online. ये क्यों करना है? Because everybody is talking about it. करना तो है ही. So that's a great wedge for you to get in. 10 साल पहले वो चेंज हो गया टू मोबाइल, कि अभी ऐप बनाना है यार, वेबसाइट तो हो गई, जो भी हो गया, बट द वर्ल्ड इज मूविंग टू एप्स। तो दैट वाज अ ग्रेट टाइम टू बी सेलिंग एप्स टू पीपल, राइट। अभी है एआई
बॉट्स,
राइट, एआई बॉट्स, कुछ भी है नया। तो इतना तो यू कैन फिगर आउट कि वेयर द नीड इज, यू कैन क्वालिफाई दैट बाय टॉकिंग टू पीपल, राइट। और फिर आप बनाइए, कोलैटरल बनाइए, मेक सम डेमो स्टफ नेवर वर्क्स, इट्स नॉट रियल। डेमो स्टफ जस्ट वर्क्स ऑन द फ्रंट एंड, नॉट इन द बैक एंड। एंड वंस यू हैव योर फर्स्ट क्लाइंट, द पाथ विल प्रेजेंट इटसेल्फ। और फर्स्ट क्लाइंट, यू शुडंट हैव बिग विशेस कि इतने का क्लाइंट। मेरा पहला क्लाइंट लाइफ में 10,000 रुपए का,
10,000 रुपए का,
10,000। उसको ई कॉमर्स इंजन बना के, एक शॉपिंग इंजन बना के दी थी हमने, 10,000 रुपए मिले थे। बट उससे वी लर्न ना, हमें आता ही नहीं था बनाना, बट उसके पैसे से हमने सीखा।
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग सर। लेट्स से नाउ एन एंटरप्रेन्योर has decided to give away equity and get capital. If they were to pitch to you, what should they do? Like, what do you look for in founders? क्योंकि सर मैंने आपके एक बहुत ही क्लोज फ्रेंड से बात किया, रिच से. And Rich told me something. I was just telling him that, can you please tell me what is Anupam sir's philosophy? So he's like, bro, this guy he only has a people philosophy. If you go and tell him something, if he's interested in you, he'll just put in the money. So there is no domain that he sticks to. He'll just put in the money. And he told me about the story of you investing in some livestock selling company. Animal, which ended up becoming very big. So he's like, that's the day when he said, I stopped believing in the fact that Anupam has a thesis for a particular domain. So what are you like an investor, sir? What's your thesis?
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है। रिच को समझ में नहीं आता है तो वो कुछ भी बोल देता है। अच्छा। But the truth is, it's all of the above. Okay. तो मैं आपको examples देता हूँ। When it comes to mobility, I don't mean mobile phones, I mean transport. तो उधर मेरी thesis बहुत clear थी,
okay,
that mobility in India is broken in every segment. I went and seeked out the top companies in every segment and became a first investor. Whether it was Ola, whether it's Rapido, whether it is Zing Bus, whether it was Chalo, which I have now exited very handsomely, whether it is Porter, and there are 2 more. These are all mobility companies in very different segments.
Correct.
And all are number 1 in their respective areas or number 2. So that was a very well developed thesis at the time. And this thesis I formed in 2011-12.
Okay.
कि इंडिया में ये सॉल्व होगा और अलग अलग सेगमेंट पे अलग अलग लोग डोमिनेट करेंगे. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू एनिमल लाइफ स्टॉक ट्रेडिंग, एक्चुअली ये भी इंटरेस्टिंग है. Now, so this was a well-formed thesis based on some research and understanding of the world. Then there are theses that you develop just by keeping your eyes and ears open accidentally. तो मैं गया था अजमेर. It's the India's biggest camel and cattle trading fair.
Okay.
तो if अगर आप पहले देखते हो कैसे ट्रेडिंग होती है, तो generally in India cattle is traded in fairs. मेला लगता है, लोग ट्रेड करते हैं. Over time, these fairs have become non-existent. But ये जो यहाँ होता है अजमेर के पास, this is the biggest in India. But it's now less of a trading marketplace and more of a festival.
Okay.
तो I was there and इतना बड़ा तमाशा, such a big festival. तो I got very curious. मैं पूछने लगा लोगों को, भाई तुम बेचते कैसे हो, ट्रेडिंग कहाँ होती है? तो I learned from these farmers and livestock people that it's a huge problem. एक फार्मर इंडिया में बड़े छोटे हैं, वो साल में 2 बार कैटल खरीदते हैं और बेचते हैं. And we have very small holding farmers.
Yeah.
So I said, wow, this is a completely broken system. Massive number of suppliers, massive number of buyers, ideal for a marketplace if you understand marketplace dynamics. So when I came back to Bombay, अच्छा मेला लगता है पुष्कर जी में.
Okay.
When I came back to Bombay, I said, भाई यहाँ कुछ बन सकता है. So I actively started seeking out this opportunity, and I met the founders of Animal and I invested shortly thereafter.
Okay.
ये तो हो गया in these areas. Rich was right about one thing. I do index on founders. I think every early stage founder should. Every early stage investor should. And the reason is कि early stage capital में आपके पास ज़्यादा proof points नहीं होते. Right? You can't show me CM1, CM2, CM3.
Correct.
आप तो सिर्फ मेरे को Excel spreadsheet दिखाओगे. Excel spreadsheet बनाना कौन सी बड़ी बात है? And till today, in my life of investing and building, I have still to have one occurrence जहाँ पर जो मैंने प्रोजेक्ट किया वो हो गया.
Okay.
वो कभी नहीं होता. Right? So we all know that it is your best guess at best. So you have to index on the founder because you don't have proof points, and you are also aware that whatever thesis the founder has will most likely change. तो आप directionally space में थोड़ा सोच सकते हैं whether it's a space you want to get into or not. But 2/3 of the indexing has to be done on founder.
Okay.
But I think a better question is this. Because everybody says you should invest in good teams. I have not met a single person in my life who said, find the worst team and invest in them. I have never heard anybody say, invest in a bad team. That's normal, common sense. The question is, what is a good team?
Yeah.
And I think it's different for different people. It depends on what you're comfortable with as an investor. हमारे लिए personally, for me, there are 2-3 things that are non-negotiables. Evidence of some sort of exceptionalism in something. The guys who build great companies invariably are fantastic at something. Whether it's building a product, whether it's selling, whether it's visioning something, but they are better than anybody else you've met at that one thing. Right? A lot of people complain, why do investors only back IIT and IIMs? It's not because of IIT and IIM. That's a proxy for exceptionalism. You have competed and you worked hard and you know how to get ahead. You got admission there.
Correct.
While beating all the other aspirants, lakhs of them. That means you know how to play that game. That's what it is.
It's a badge of exceptionalism.
Yeah, it's a proxy for exceptionalism. So something that I have not met somebody else do as well as you. I think that's a very important trait.
Can you give me an example, sir? A person that you've met?
Yeah, I mean, so many examples. Like some people, I have Arvind at Rapido was fantastic at execution.
Okay.
Right. The 2-3 times that I spoke to him before I invested, right, invariably we used to start talking about execution.
Like what was the conversation like?
मतलब इसको हम roll out कैसे करेंगे? How do you see this? What will your competitive strategy be? How will you execute competitively? So when somebody goes deep into that, you start to understand that they are potentially very good at execution. Right. And so you bet on that exceptionalism. Another trait that we look for is business acumen.
Business acumen.
Easy to say this, but what does it mean?
Yeah.
देखो, प्रोडक्ट बनाना का ये मतलब नहीं है कि आप अच्छा बिजनेस बना सकते हो. Bangalore is great at building great products, but businesses, I'm not so sure. Bangalore की जितनी कंपनी है सब unprofitable. ठीक है. Most of the profitable companies are in Mumbai. You'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Tech companies are in Delhi. So business acumen is धंधा. क्या आपको intuitively समझ में आता है margins कहाँ है, margin pools कहाँ है, कहाँ से पैसा निकलेगा? That is not that easy to figure out. People say, and this is the worst thing to tell a investor. Acha, this is a $10 billion market. Even if I get 1% of it, I'll make 100 million.
Yeah.
ऐसा थोड़ी होता है. मतलब what you have assumed, what you have said, the corollary of what you just told me by saying that is the guys who built this $10 billion industry are so stupid that they've left 100 million for you.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you're saying, in other words. ऐसा नहीं होता है. You have to extract it out of them painfully. And for that, you need some level of exceptionalism. An angular way, whether it's marketing, maybe you're a magician when it comes to social media marketing. So there you can find your wedge. Right? You need that business acumen to understand where the profit pools are in that 10 billion. And to figure out how to create your cost structure so you can attract that profit.
Yeah.
Right. So I do a very simple thing when I meet a lot of founders. I give them a chalk. I say, bhai, or a pen or whatever, a marker. And I say, there's the whiteboard. Tera P&L jara samjha mere ko. So it tells me how comfortable a person is with numbers, how deeply they understand what they're, and it may not come out true. Whatever our projections are will always fail. But at least you've thought through these things. The third thing that I look for in a team is, what is something about the space that you're going into that is non-obvious and non-intuitive that nobody else but you know? In other words, what's giving you the right to play? Have you spent enough time uncovering a truth that others are blinded to? Then you have a chance to play. Showing up means, कोई वेले थोड़ी बैठे हैं तुम्हारे लिए खोल के दुकान की, भाई तुम आ जाओ ले जाओ मेरा धंधा.
Correct.
कोई नहीं लेने देता. तो I think these are 2-3 things that are very critical in terms of how we evaluate founders.
That is so beautiful, sir. So you spoke about business acumen. Now, every 20-year-old person is always thinking, how do I become an entrepreneur? Which essentially means cultivating that business acumen. When we were in college, the idea was pretty simple. जो भी दिखता है करो. You get to make a website, do it.
Right.
You get to organize a TEDx event in college, do it. You get to sell tickets, do it. In fact, I've done both TEDx and ticket sales both. So when you do cold calling, you understand a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's when you understand that cold calling should not be cold. It has to be made warm.
Yeah.
So you find a way to make it warm. For example, in our college, when we had to call students to participate in an event, it's called Pimpri Chinchwad College of Engineering, sir.
Yeah, I know.
So nobody knew that college in Pune because it wasn't very popular. But we still had to...
अरे नाम ही ऐसा तो popular कैसे होगी?
Correct.
Pimpri Chinchwad.
So we wanted to get in students to participate in our events. हमारा प्राइज मनी था 2-3 हज़ार रुपए. Whereas बाकी कॉलेज में 50,000, 10,000 तो मिनिमम था उनका, हमारा 3,000, 5,000 था. So we wanted to find a way to get students in.
Yeah, that's tough.
But why would a student participate over here? So we decided on a strategy called acquaintance calling. तो मैंने क्या किया, सारे दोस्तों को जाके बांटा एक शीट, बोला कि तुम्हारे 3-4 दोस्त होंगे बाकी सारे इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज में. हमारे पास 12 इवेंट्स हैं. अगर फोन करके सारे 12 इवेंट्स करने बताऊंगा, सारे 12 कॉम्पिटिशन्स करने बताऊंगा तो कोई सुनेगा नहीं. So let's do one thing. If you think one of your friends studying at a computer science college, if one of your friends studying in PICT is studying computer science and maybe a good coder, recommend him over here so that we can call him and tell him that, you know what, Anupam has recommended you to participate in this competition because he thinks you can win 3,000 rupees.
That's a great way. Wow.
So because of that, we were able to increase conversion.
Good, very nice. So that gives you understanding.
Yeah. So sir, if you were to give out 2 to 3 methods of cultivating business acumen, what would those methods be?
यार देखो, method तो ऐसा है ना, there are no templates in life, right? Ultimately, everything is about doing. तो आपको करना चाहिए. Just like you understood a few things by trying to, what were you doing? You were selling.
Yeah.
है ना? तो start selling early on in life. कुछ भी बेचो. I started my first business when I was 13 years old.
13 years old. What did you sell?
I was trying to sell I was renting out books.
Okay.
ठीक है. तो अभी रेंटिंग आउट बुक्स के लिए बुक लाइब्रेरी समझ लो ना, आजकल तो नहीं है, उस जमाने में बुक लाइब्रेरीज हुआ करती थी. तो घर से बुक लाइब्रेरी बनाना था. तो बुक लाइब्रेरी के लिए क्या चाहिए बताओ?
बुक चाहिए और लोग चाहिए, बुक पढ़ना चाहते हैं.
बुक्स, तो बुक्स ही नहीं थी पहले तो फर्स्ट आई हैड टू गो फाइंड बुक्स.
ओके.
तो आई हैड टू टेल पीपल भाई तेरी बुक्स, तो वो सेल साइकिल हो गई. देन वंस यू हैव बुक्स व्हाट डू यू नीड? You need people who are book readers to come and rent from you.
Yeah.
Then you have to go and try to sell to them. So that failed for many reasons. And then I tried to build a sports club when I was 16. That did okay, but then it failed. Then I did made-ups. So I did 5-6 businesses. But all of them involved some level of type of selling to somebody. Selling doesn't mean just selling the product. It could mean selling yourself for employment. Asking some factory owner to take up your production. That is also a type of sales. Right? And it involved actual execution.
Yeah.
And doing things. Right? तो ये दो अगर आप करोगे very early on and keep doing it, you will understand. Business acumen develop होगा.
Yeah.
Right? But still, it may not develop at a macro level. It will develop more at a negotiation and influencing capability level. Macro level पर अगर आपको business acumen or develop करना है, I think working as maybe in finance early on or working as an investment banker early on, I think these things are all very positive.
Why, sir?
क्योंकि एक बहुत macro perspective मिलता है आपको.
Okay.
Right? You get away, like if you're in finance, you get away from the whole execution part of it, because it's very easy to tell yourself, अच्छा इसको थोड़ा और better execute करेंगे तो ऐसा हो जाएगा. लेकिन ऐसा generally होता नहीं है. Every industry, every market, every business comes with its own characteristics of gross margins and how the money flows.
Correct.
आप चाह कर भी उसको, yes, of course you can reinvent it, and entire industries have been disrupted. I'm not saying disruption is not possible. What I'm saying is profit pools behave in a certain way, right? And when you are in the middle of execution, you feel if you just did things a little differently, executed a little harder, you could change that. But वैसा होता नहीं. You have to fundamentally think differently. And when you are focused on financials, तो वो समझ में आता है कि बस gross margin इसका इतना है, ये करने से इतना shift हुआ. So you start to understand the levers of what drives gross margins, economics, and top line.
Got it.
And bottom line. So I think that's why investment banking, because you're not involved in any industry in a way that you are continually banging your head against the wall. You're just taking a macro, very top level, top down view of the industry. And that is quite, how should I say, that's quite liberating in many ways, because ultimately as human beings, look, we believe whatever we want to believe, and then later we tell ourselves stories to justify that belief.
Yeah.
So I've seen enough founders wo chota sa market pakadte hain that has no room to ever become big, and then they justify how it will become the next big thing. But that's a story they're telling themselves and you. If you are an investment banker early on, that macro perspective of looking at industries and figuring out how that moves over time is very helpful later on, but not too long. Once you stay an investment banker too long, it's very hard to actually build something.
Got it.
Yeah, but these are all early years.
So just like you spoke about mobility, what's your thesis right now? What's going to grow in the next 10 years in India?
Yeah, it's very difficult to say, and I'll tell you why. AI is disrupting everything. So when you look at traditional spaces of investments like software or software-led products, which could be any of the internet products, right? Food delivery, all these are software-led products or software. It's becoming a big conundrum in terms of what will change and how. What we do know is everything will change. Right? But what exactly will change and how is very hard to tell. People are already talking about the browser becoming irrelevant. Right? So, software-driven businesses or primarily software-driven businesses is a big question mark right now. I don't think anybody can tell you with a lot of confidence that this will work and this will not work. What I can tell you is a few things. What will not change? So let's start from the consumer side first. Doesn't matter how many hours you spend digitally. खाना तो खाना ही है लोगों को.
Correct.
कपड़े भी पहनने हैं. And the new generations want more and more experiences. The more you are digitally savvy, digitally native, the more you're looking for new experiences because you want something exactly the opposite of that.
Correct.
And also that's content for your digital feed.
Yeah.
Right. So I know that people are now open to new experience and actually seek out new experiences more than ever.
Yeah.
So new cuisines, who knows, maybe a Cuban fast food chain, right? I mean, I'm just putting stuff out there. Of course, you have to cultivate tastes and things like that. But people are very experimental, even in small towns. Travel businesses, right? With AI, one can build very interesting travel experiences. वो जो अभी का travel है, जाके आपने ये book किया, it's kind of laborious if you ask me, because you go figure out everything, then you just go to the travel OTA to book your ticket.
Correct.
But everybody is looking for different experiences.
Yeah.
So ideally, आप already use कर रहे होंगे Chat GPT, Gemini or whatever. You see how much they know you. Right? Intimacy जो है in these chatbots and you is just at a next level.
Yeah.
So they can, design a perfect travel plan for you.
Correct.
And with one click, book your tickets if the pricing is right. Clothing. The more people are digital natives, the more clothes they need because you don't want to be seen in the same clothes again. So I think of the driver of behavior and then I think about how it will impact industries. So social media is one big driver of behavior and therefore it impacts how we consume everything. If you dial into that, you can come out with nice wedges in every year. Like we invest in a company called National Miles. I had just gone for the opening. Shark Tank company, one of the best companies that come on Shark Tank so far in my view. I just went for their first offline store opening 2 days back. Okay. It's in South Bombay. And, amazing stuff. They're selling bags right from 3,000 rupees. And 70% of their manufacturing is now done locally, not from China. Or what are they indexing on? If you look at their bags, it's all about millennials and Gen Z and their hunger for travel, for the globetrotter, for the, adventurer in you. Right? So very trendy, very hip designs. So I think social media is impacting consumption at many levels. In fact, aaj ka news hai, VIP is getting sold.
Really?
Yeah.
Two?
There are a bunch of PE buyers and so on. I don't think they'll be able to compete in the new world. Right. So everywhere you look, you can see that. So that's one layer. And remember, what's further driving that, the bigger tailwind or the gap, not the tailwind. The tailwind is the social media. But what's the gap? The gap is India is highly unbranded in every category.
Correct.
Right. Tell me 3 brands for chairs.
Green Soul. The Sleep Company. That's all.
Even the sleep companies, they just started doing chairs. But if I asked you, I want 3 companies that are great at ergonomic chairs. Most people will struggle to name one. You know this because you run a podcast.
Yeah.
Right. But 9 people out of 10 will not be able to tell.
Correct.
Right. So India is heavily fast fashion. You'll be able to tell me 3 maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Digital fast fashion, for example. Offline retail, you'll tell me Zara, H&M, Uniqlo, the usual suspects. But fast food chains, 5-7 naam aate hain. So we are heavily underbranded in every category. So thousands of brands will be created over the next 10 years. That's the gap. The tailwind is social media, which will upend existing guys and create wedges for new players.
Okay.
So that's a multiplicative factor because you're going to disrupt existing players and you're going to get a lot more brand. So those actually work pretty well. And I think you'll see a lot of wealth creation in these areas. The other is AI. That's the tailwind. AI is now upending traditionally software-driven businesses, which is everything. Right? Our business is software-driven. Our top tech companies in India are software-driven, whether it's Zomato or Swiggy or what have you. Our IT business in India, $300 billion, is all software-driven, services-driven. So SaaS is about $40 billion in India, approximately. Is all software-driven.
Yeah.
All that is being challenged by native AI. Right. And some of these companies will adapt, like many do, to the new paradigm of using native AI before the challengers catch up. But many, and I believe many more, will not be able to face the challengers than the ones who will.
You're talking about the large companies also?
I think about the large companies as well. Yeah. I think many will not. It happens in every upheaval, right? Many of the incumbents don't struggle to stay solvent.
So the one trend that I see coming up is education-based selling. For example, if you look at the brand Minimalist, it's got products like niacinamide, vitamin C. Now, if I go and ask somebody, what is niacinamide and what does it do? Most people wouldn't understand. But that's when it hit me that in the Minimalist website itself, if there's an AI bot where you can just click a picture, upload the picture and ask the bot, what product should I buy? How should I apply? And what are the disclaimers that I should keep in mind? It just becomes so much easier. And that could probably extend the skincare market further, where every D2C brand, which is trying to sell complex products like skincare, can use education, can use AI in order to increase customer awareness, eventually create a new market. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's already happening. So I'll give you an example of a company. I'm an investor in a company called Cure Skin.
Cure Skin.
They're not a new company. They're not a Gen AI born company, but they're an AI company. They've been around now 6-7 years. And they are doing, God, I can't even keep up with the numbers because every time I checked, it's gone up some obnoxious numbers. So I think there are a few hundred crores now. And the way it works is if you have a hair or skin problem, you just take a photo, you upload it, the AI analyzes what the problem is and prescribes right there.
Prescribes the products.
So it's prescription based and some are non-prescription products. But yes, prescribes it right there. And then there's some, so actually they have to delay it a little bit to make the other person feel that a human is doing it because it's so damn good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you have a hair condition, you take a photo, you upload. They'll ask you to take photos from some angles and you upload it. And the software figures everything out. You have a skin, like a lot of people, young people have acne issues and dark circles and so on. So that's already happening.
What are the other areas that you think will grow, sir?
So look, so those were a couple of tailwinds, right? So I'm giving you more than the areas. I'm giving you a framework to think about which other areas will emerge. What are the other tailwinds? What are the, let's not say tailwinds, what are the other shifts happening right now in the world?
Sir, one major shift is specifically in Mumbai. I don't know what else to do other than watch a movie at a weekend or at best go to a stand-up comedy show. So like you said, experiences, we do not have many. And in fact, even if you think about food is like one part of the experience. Now, I want to spend 4 hours with my wife. I don't know where to go.
That's a big city problem. And so there's a lot of companies going to solve for that, right? To try to create. And this generation is all about experience. But even beyond that, globally, tell me what's happening. Geopolitics is one big upheaval.
Yeah.
Right? The old paradigm is dead of America's dominance. And what you are moving towards is a multipolar world.
Yeah.
What happens in a multipolar world?
People think other things are aspirational. Like, for example, right now, South Korea is extremely aspirational. Otherwise, it was only US. And because of the South Korean soft power has become an important instrument of geopolitical power. That eventually leads to creation of $1 billion industry.
My daughter has 5 labubus.
Oh, really?
The biggest word, if I can say, of 2025 is Labubu.
Yeah.
Labubu kahan ka hai? China ka hai na shayad.
Yeah.
So who would have thought China, chalo for what, all its might, it had very little soft power except Chinese junk food and Chinatown in every major city in the world.
Correct.
Who kept to themselves generally. But global hits like Labubu are now coming out of China. So when you get multipolarity, trends start popping up from various places. So that's another thing. That's a great tailwind. What else? When you get multipolarity, defense becomes very important. Earlier, America was underwriting everybody's defense.
Correct.
Right? Or a big part of the world. Now you have China, Russia, America. And so there are different consortiums being formed. And so there's going to be a lot of self-dependence on defense. So you will see the next 10 years, the defense industry in India will take off.
Yeah.
Amazing opportunity.
So the classic example is the drone industry. When 2611 happened, that's when we realized that we need drones to be able to get inside the room, figure out if that room has a terrorist or a normal person or a terrorist along with a normal person, right? A terrorist, a hostage, or a terrorist with a hostage. And you know, my mentor Raghu Raman told me, he's the one who actually became the chief of NatGrid after 2611. He told me that, think about this. The commanders did not have the blueprint of a 5-star hotel because for some strange reasons back then, commanders were never trained to get into a 5-star hotel. And that 5-star hotel was so complicated that they had to literally open 1,000 rooms, one after the other, in that smoke, and figure out if there was a terrorist, a hostage, or a terrorist along with the hostage, or multiple terrorists or multiple hostages.
That's a great example.
And
drones were perfect for that.
Yeah. And after that, the drone industry of India opened up. But for some reason, we kind of banned commercial drones.
Yeah.
But then after that, drone industry picked up. And today we are looking at a defense sector that's growing, I think 10x in the past 10 years, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. But the real growth is really coming after the Indo-Pak situation that just happened. Because a lot of that warfare was drone warfare.
Yeah.
Right. And even what you're seeing right now in Israel and Iran, a lot of it is drone warfare.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of these things, when you look at shifts globally, it gives you a sense of, if you keep your ears plugged, you can get a good sense of where things might head or which industries can present great opportunities.
Yeah. So one hurdle that I've seen, and you can correct me if I'm wrong over here, is that every industry that we now see growing is already being dominated by China either on the front end or the back end. Classic example being EVs. Like these guys invested in Congo in 2008 when the world was suffering through a recession.
That's right.
China invested billions of dollars to buy cobalt mines. Because of which today, if you want cobalt, you will have to go to China one with the other. Similarly, they invested in lithium processing way before anybody else, because of which today you might want EVs, but you'll eventually have to go to China. In fact, if I'm not wrong, sir, even today, 90% of lithium is being processed by China. And we still have to, even when it comes to solar ingots, we are dependent 99% on China. We spoke about drones. On the front end, it looks like there are several companies in India popping up. Even for the most important components of drones, we are dependent on China. So, to me, this seems like an opportunity. But when I spoke to entrepreneurs, they told me that the government policies, although they seem lucrative to the common man, when it comes to execution, they may not be that lucrative. Have you seen that happening, sir?
Yeah, so look here. China has been the factory of the world for the last, 25, 30 years. And just through sheer hard work, efficiency, and government support, lots of it, they have become so dominant that it's hard to imagine that any country will catch up with it.
Yeah.
But, what I've seen also is that's not how the world works. At any given point, there are companies and industries that the world feels they'll never catch up with. So Taiwan was very dominant for electronics at one point.
Yeah.
Today, I don't know where it stands.
It still is, no, sir.
Which one? There's one
TSMC.
company. But TSMC. But I don't mean the chips. I mean, Taiwan was known for its finished end user products, brands from China were coveted at one point. Then Japanese products were all the rage, and Japanese cars were the best in the world.
Yeah.
German cars were supposedly nobody could beat them, and they still carry a lot of weight. But we've always seen these things change. Of course, the difference here is China is now bottlenecking on the resource front. So they have a lot of access to resources that other countries don't. And it's a question that needs to be answered. And a lot of these resources are not about simply being creative and coming up with a new way of doing things, because they require 10 to 15 years of lead time.
Correct.
To get a copper mine going is a decade-long endeavor.
Yeah.
So unless you were investing in the last decade, you're not going to see the real benefits right now. So you're right in that sense that it looks as if for the next several years, China will remain dominant in many spaces. But given where we are coming from, that to me doesn't pose as big a threat. Because, we are so low in terms of standings on manufacturing share in the global pie. And so many of these other related industries that I don't think for the next 4-5 years, unless there is a policy shift in China where we are fundamentally locked out of getting any form of resource, we should see major challenges in achieving the growth rates that we want.
Correct.
Right? Because we are a very small part.
Yeah.
So I don't think that worries me as much as are we investing enough today for the next decade when we become large enough and when we need control in a multipolar world over our own resources.
Yeah.
Do we have that supply secured? I'm not sure what the answer is. As far as the government in terms of execution being messy, look, I think democracies are messy.
I'm so glad you said that, sir. Can you please explain?
For whatever reason, good or bad, we have chosen to be a democracy. And democracy gives us an ability to self-direct. But at the same time, because you are trying to take so many different voices with you, it is always about majority, right? And it's always about meeting the needs of multiple factions that are often at loggerheads and contradictory with each other.
Yeah.
Though real democracies are always messy. America didn't seem so long because it has a 250-year history of democracy. All the institutions have been created. Sure, you're seeing even the kinks in the armor of America now, right? So India is a very young democracy. Not only are we a democracy, we're a very young democracy.
Correct.
But democracy also gives us a lot of, other things which are very important, like self-determination. So I think if you remain a democracy, it is going to be messy. But the institutions that are formed in a democracy usually are very solid. So they stand the test of time.
Got it. So you spoke about multiple brands being created in the category. You spoke about multiple brands being created in multiple categories. So when I was speaking to Kishore Biani sir, he mentioned something very interesting. He said that if you have to look at India, it's not 1.4 billion people, it's just India 1. So he's like, if there are 22 million taxpayers in India, at max, you will be able to cater to those 30 million households with 150 million population. That's it. So don't look at India as 1.4 billion, look at India as 150 million. But I was always inquisitive to understand, how do you build a brand for India 3 and India 2? Or is that even possible? For example, Misho did that for India 2 and India 3 and it has been revolutionary. And more often than not, I've seen people speak about fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. But the people who speak about fortune at the bottom of the pyramid are never really creating anything for the bottom of the pyramid. What do you think about that, sir? Do you believe brands can be created for the bottom of the pyramid of India?
The real problem is not about can you build brands for tier 2 and tier 3. The real problem is what type of brands do you need to build for tier 2 and tier 3? Okay. There is a whole study and a lot of research. I don't remember the data right now, but I'll give you some broad things that I remember. Once per capita GDP goes above $5,000, things like coffee and tea explode apparently. Once it goes above $7,000, then travel explodes. And there are all these studies based on data from other countries and so on, right? So I think different parts of India have different needs. The top tier has substantial disposable income. So unke liye, they're at a point where they want the best experiences, they want the best products. So perhaps Bhyani ji meant building those type of brands. But if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, unko bhi yaar kapde dhone hain. So Nirma does not catering to that top 100 million, is it?
Correct.
Nirma bhi to brand hai, one of India's biggest brands.
Yeah.
Who is it catering to? Right. It's probably catering to maybe not tier 3, at least tier 3 में तो local brands है. हमें लगता नहीं है कि brands है क्योंकि we don't know those brands. But when you go to tier 3, every tier 3 has strong local brands that you are unable to dislodge.
Yeah.
Right. In every category. But their category is not to do with discretionary income. Their category is to do with basic food, clothing, shelter, and the necessities like sabun, detergent, and things like that.
Correct.
So, as a result, they'll obviously consume fewer brands.
So what you're saying is that if you have to build a brand for the bottom of the pyramid, you have to focus on necessities. If you have to build a brand for the top of the pyramid, it could be about experiences, which is at the top of the Maslow's pyramid.
Yeah. But there are some things that I think that might cut across. Let's take education, just as an example. Or healthcare. Let's leave healthcare. Healthcare is obvious. Everybody needs healthcare. Right? The affordability is very low at the bottom of the pyramid. That's a different point, and the government is doing its best to provide that, to fill that role. Let's take education. हर family India में education के ऊपर बहुत emphasis रखती है. Right? Rural में शायद इतना ना हो, but that is also changing rapidly क्योंकि अब everybody has access to all media.
Correct.
Everybody is on the internet all the time.
Correct.
Internet has become all pervasive. So people understand the benefits of education. So, for example, I believe there is potentially a massive edtech company to be built in India, which caters to the bottom of the pyramid.
Isn't that YouTube already, sir?
In a way, but I don't think YouTube is very self-driven. Is there a way that for a few rupees, for 100 rupees a month, you can deliver education which is amongst the best in the world? And with the technology that's available today, I don't see why not.
Have you heard about Seco, sir?
I'm an investor in Seco.
Oh, really? Yeah. Seco is a classic example of the same, right?
Seco is, but Seco is catering to a different segment. It is catering to people who are older, who are looking for ways to make money. Right? Employability or ways to make money. Right? So how to generate money off social media content, how to trade stocks, and all these various things. How to be a YouTube influencer. तो मैं कह रहा हूँ बच्चों को एजुकेशन अगर देना है और एक बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है, right? We don't have today. So what do we have? We have most of our population is young, but the education they receive is very poor relative to the world.
Yeah.
So that should worry us all in terms of the future productivity or capability of these kids. And I believe that today the time is right. And we've seen Shark Tank पे हमने देखे हैं. Shark Tank पे 2-3 कंपनी आई हैं where they have been trying to disrupt education for the bottom of the pyramid. I think last year or the year before that, there was one company that also got funding that was trying to build schools and deliver better education to kids in villages. I think that using tech at a price point that anybody can afford. और मुझे तो लगता है आप 100 क्या 500 रुपये महीने भी चार्ज कर सकते हो. Today family, even if they make 10,000 rupees a month, they will figure out how to carve out that 500 rupees for their kids because they've learned how important it is. But with AI and all these things, all that tech is available now. Correct. YouTube is self-driven. It's very hard to deliver. Education needs some level of supervision.
Yeah, got it.
Good education.
That was a great diversion, sir, from our topic. Sir, I want to understand.
क्या थी हमारी टॉपिक?
हमारी टॉपिक थी कि आप जब किसी कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट करते हो तो एंटरप्रेन्योर में क्या क्या देखते हो. बट आई वांट टू आस्क यू दैट क्वेश्चन अगेन बिकॉज those are some very interesting topics. I was actually getting more carried away than you were.
अच्छा.
Because your answers were fascinating. Sir, I want to come back to how do you evaluate an entrepreneur? You've seen so many pitches at Shark Tank. You know, when they walk in, I mean, we all know that it's a 45-minute, 1 hour long pitch, not what's shown on Sony Live, because it's always a small clip out of the longer pitch. But you know, every time an entrepreneur walks in, knowingly or unknowingly, we tend to make our judgments based on body language. When an entrepreneur walks in for the pitch, are there things that you immediately notice and say, oh, maybe this guy has some stuff? It could be body language, it could be anything.
होता है.
Jesse, sir, what are the first things that you judge?
Confidence होता है, एक presence होता है. तो उससे फर्क तो पड़ता है. You know, somebody walks in with a stride and is able to communicate very well. Of course, it's very, you know, देखो यार, हम Shark Tank किस लिए करते हैं?
To empower entrepreneurs.
नहीं, because we want to be famous.
Oh, okay.
Jokes apart, वो तो है ही एक side effect. But I feel, right, that the biggest change that's going to happen in the next decade, in the current decade, in India, जैसे कि we became the best doctors in the world, best engineers in the world. Now all the Silicon Valley CEOs are Indians. जहाँ हमको दरवाजा दिखता है पैसे बनाने का, हम घुस जाते हैं. अभी हमको समझ में आ गया entrepreneurship is, we will become world dominating entrepreneurs. So that is what is going to play out in the next decade. And I personally want to play a role in helping realize that dream of India becoming the top entrepreneurial economy in the world. और Shark Tank एक जरिया है वो करने का. ठीक है. क्योंकि उसके जरिए हम educate कर पाते हैं लोगों. What happens with Shark Tank? If you think about it, we always feel that ये जो $1 billion businesses बनाते हैं, people who raise capital, वो हमारे टाइप के लोग नहीं है, वो एक अलग बिरादरी के हैं.
Correct.
Right. People who are actors, वो हमारे टाइप के लोग नहीं है, वो अलग बिरादरी है.
Yeah.
Right? And most people don't even attempt to go there. What does Shark Tank do is it gives you stories that you can relate to.
Yeah.
अरे ये तो बगल वाले चाचा ऐसे हैं. अरे ये तो बिल्कुल मम्मी जैसी है.
Correct.
When you start believing now, then that the first step to doing anything is belief. Right. So I think once you start believing, then a lot of people start exploring that avenue. As a result, a lot of people become entrepreneurs. And I think that is the role that Shark Tank plays. But one important aspect is when we educate people through Shark Tank, and that's what we are doing, हम बिना engage किए educate नहीं कर सकते.
Got it.
Right. तो first you have to, आप बच्चे को भी देख लो क्लास में, the best teachers are the ones who engage the kid before they can educate the kid.
Correct.
Right. So that is what we do at Shark Tank. Similarly, as a founder, what is your job when you come on Shark Tank?
To get investment, to gain visibility,
To
and
get
to educate our customers.
Your only job at that point is to educate us effectively. Getting investments, getting more sales, those are all byproducts. If they happen, they happen. But if you do not educate me effectively, you are most certainly not getting an investment. Right. To do that, you have to engage me. Same thing. So when somebody walks out with a strut or a stride and opens their pitch with something that engages me and keeps me engaged for the first 5 minutes, you now have the window to educate me about your business and sell me. Right? Before I can sell you, I need your engagement. So that's what that does when somebody walks out with a lot of confidence.
So engage and educate.
Engage and educate.
Got it. So which are the most iconic companies that you've invested in through Shark Tank?
यार आइकॉनिक तो तब होगी जब पैसे वापस आएंगे, बट the companies that, so I'll name a few companies which have become very interesting. एक कंपनी है Winston,
Okay.
which is doing not home appliance but personal appliances. So shavers and skin massagers and all of that. There is no brand in India आज की तारीख में जो कर रहा है. वो जब आए थे वो 30-35 लाख रुपए सेल कर रहे थे महीने का. Now they're about 60 crores in terms of annual revenue run rate.
Oh wow.
Then there is another company which is into Homestrap. उसमें मैंने अकेले इन्वेस्ट किया था 3 साल हो गए शायद. Even when they came, they were about 50 lakhs monthly revenue. Now their annual revenue run rate is again in that same range, 50-60 crores. There's another company called Sharma Ji Ka Aata.
Sharma Ji Ka Aata.
Now they are rebranded to Sharma Ji.
Okay.
They came 3 years back. मतलब 2.5 years back according to the season. 3 years अभी पूरा होगा. तो उनका तो धंधा ही नहीं था. उनकी चक्की थी, आटे की चक्की. You know what आटे की चक्की is?
Yeah.
तुमको तो पैकेज्ड आटा खाने की आदत होगी.
नहीं सर, मिल से ही खाता सर मैं.
हाँ, अच्छा. तो आटे की चक्की चलाती थी वो आंटी. और 50-60 हज़ार रुपए का माल बेचती थी महीने का. और उसको करना था पैकेज्ड प्रोडक्ट्स.
Okay.
और सबने ना बोल दिया था इन्वेस्टमेंट करना. बट फॉर व्हाटएवर रीजन आई फेल्ट समथिंग, तो मैंने वापस बुला के उनको पैसे दिए. They are now doing 10 crore annual revenue run rate.
How did that happen, sir?
बहुत मेहनत लगी यार. मतलब everything from sitting with them, designing products, figuring out the strategy, getting them on Q-commerce, visiting their factories. काफी कुछ किया हमने.
How are they different from आशीर्वाद का आटा, सर?
आशीर्वाद का आटा बहुत बड़ी कंपनी है, बहुत छोटी है.
नहीं मतलब in terms of quality, like you said in the beginning.
का claim है that they are not processed, they are not, they use better grains. तो more healthy, it's more organic.
Okay.
तो वही है बस घर के आटे जैसा. Right, is their pitch.
Okay.
मम्मी के हाथ के खाने जैसा. So that's how they sell it and that's how they package it and they try to. Now they set up their own factory. तो खुद की प्रोडक्शन हो गई. पहले तो बाहर से लेते थे. तो that's another company that's quite interesting. Then there is एक आया था Thinkerbell. Yeah, okay. Which is to cater to specially abled people. अभी वो तो season 1 में आया था शायद. And they had come with this boy who was blind. And he had become quite a phenomenon on social media.
Okay.
तो वो उनका brand ambassador था. Prathamesh. Yeah, and then obviously we were all in touch with him, helping him in whatever way we could. But great kid. He's a motivational speaker now, and really looking beyond his horizons. और उसको वो कंपनी भी अच्छा कर रही है. They went on to raise more capital. तो ऐसी है. About out of the total number of companies that we've invested in, I personally have, but there are about 8-10 companies that have done very well and that are at that range of 10 crores to 50 crores annual revenue run rate. Now this is a very interesting phase. यहाँ से जो companies निकल जाती है ना to the next level of 100 crores, then those companies become very big.
Yeah. Sir, if I may ask, can you tell me what was your thesis, if at all you had any, or what is the thesis that you developed after you invested in those companies? Let's start with Winston. When they pitched to you, what was your perspective? Did you have a thesis like the mobility thesis?
नहीं, thesis तो वहीं बैठे बैठे डेवलप करनी पड़ती है यार. हमको तो पता ही नहीं रहता है. When Shark Tank companies come to pitch to you, you don't know who's going to come.
Okay.
We have no idea. हमको कोई cheat notes या cliff notes नहीं मिलते.
But isn't it better if you know?
नहीं, क्या होगा ना. देखो, we'll go back to what I was saying. Engage, educate, and then educate. Right? If I know, if the sharks know which company is coming, we cannot engage because the drama will be gone. The surprise element and not having predetermined questions and responses is what makes the show.
Got it.
कि मेरे को जगह पे सोचना है. And this is not normal investing. I have all the time in the world. I'm figuring out things. Then I'm investing. यहाँ पर I have approximately an hour. I'm trying to make a decision. I'm trying to get all my questions answered while being cognizant of the fact that I alone cannot hog all the time. At the same time, I'm competing with 4 other people who are trying to do the same thing. So there's a lot of psychological warfare. Right? Maybe I'm dissing a company in the beginning because I want to invest in it, not because. तो वो सब बहुत, there's a lot of game कहते हैं theory that goes on in there, right? So if we knew beforehand, all that would go for a toss.
Got it.
And then we wouldn't be able to engage people.
So for Winston, how did you develop this thesis?
तो वहीं पे समझ में आता है. तो you ask the question to the founder only, भाई. What I had said earlier, कि if you believe that brands will emerge in every category, then you ask the founder, भाई और कितने brands हैं इस space में? He tells you. Potential market size कितना है? वो तो आपको देखो यार, you are fairly plugged in. I'm an active investor. धंधा चलाते हैं, business चलाते हैं. थोड़ी बहुत तो समझ है दुनिया के बारे में. इतना तो समझ में आता है कि कौन सी स्पेसेस इंटरेस्टिंग है, कहाँ पर वाइट स्पेसेस है, कहाँ पर नहीं है. और जो नहीं आता है हम फाउंडर से पूछ लेते हैं. और फाउंडर अगर झूठ बोलेगा वो डिलिजेंस में निकल जाएगा. राइट? तो वो हम सामने पूछ लेते हैं. एंड देन बेसिस दैट वी फॉर्म एन ओपिनियन कि यहाँ पर पैसा बन सकता है कि नहीं. अभी कितना बन सकता है कितना नहीं वो तो भक्ति बताएगा.
Correct.
But at least we form a directional view.
So the reason why I want to understand this is because I want to help the entrepreneurs understand it from the investor's lens. How do you gauge a startup once the founder comes to Shark Tank and you have so many challenges? So when it comes to Winston, how did you gauge the startup?
Sure. So we asked those questions to figure out, भाई इसमें धंधा समझ में आता है. ऐसी क्या बात बोली उसने that he understands. So for example, Winston. What I figured out in that, and I can only talk about myself, what I figured out in that interaction, कि ये supply chain बहुत अच्छे से समझता है. Supply chain चाइना से समझना और अच्छे प्राइस पे लाके यहाँ पर माल बेचना कोई आसान काम नहीं. लोगों की धज्जियां उड़ जाती.
सबको लगता है आयरॉनिकली बहुत आसान है सर.
नहीं, अरे चाइना बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स चीज है. बहुत ओपेक है. वो आपको मतलब हाँ में हाँ डाल के क्या बेच जाएंगे. यू लूज एवरीथिंग.
कैन यू एक्सप्लेन दिस सर?
देखो यार, चाइना में आप एक्सप्लेन क्या करूं. सब धंधे वाले बैठे हैं. राइट? ये हार्ड कोर ट्रेडर्स एंड मैन्युफैक्चरर्स पूरे वर्ल्ड को सप्लाई करते हैं. ये सब जानते हैं यार. दे आर 10 steps ahead of you. आप बोलते हो मेरे को ये टाइप का चाहिए, वो शायद बना के बैठा हुआ. he'll tell you नहीं ये बनाना तो इम्पॉसिबल है.
बट क्यों ऐसा बोलते हैं?
बिकॉज ही कैन गेट मोर मनी आउट ऑफ यू. बट उसके पास ऑलरेडी इन्वेंट्री पड़ा होगा. 99% of the time he already has inventory. So there are all these things, right? Then they will promise you a certain quality. If you push them, वो इंडिया वाले करते हैं अलॉट कि नहीं मेरे को इससे बेटर चाहिए लेकिन ये प्राइस में चाहिए. वो हाँ बोल देगा आपको. Okay, no problem sir. But you will not get that quality. Right? तो ये सब सीखना मतलब फिगर आउट करना is a journey. इसमें 1.5-2 साल और नुकसान वगैरह पैसे लग जाते हैं. धक्के लग के ही आप सीखते हो. तो उसने वो क्रैक कर लिया था. तो वो समझ में आया. ये समझ में आया कि ये इंडस्ट्रीज में अब तक सारा शेवर जब भी खरीदने, मैं खुद शेवर खरीदने जाता हूँ, जब भी खरीदने जाता हूँ एक फिलिप्स ही दिखता है. ढंग का एक फिलिप्स ही दिखता है.
करेक्ट.
और कुछ दिखता है मेरे को नाम भी नहीं पता. तो ये भी समझ में आया कि भाई more and more people are having beards these days and shavers and all these personal appliances, beauty appliances. Wife आप relate भी कर पाते हो. Wife का देखते हो कि घर पे कुछ ना कुछ appliance लेके आ रही है. Right? So you realize there's a white space for a brand. He understands the supply chain. Team seems confident. Husband and wife, they complement each other. उतना ही सोचना. उससे आगे सोचोगे तो analysis paralysis हो जाता है.
Got it. Understood. So what are the things that people do wrong when they seek investment?
Yeah, one is what I told you. That $10 billion market, if I get 1% of it, 100 million हो गया तो problem solved. Right. Two, which मेरे को बड़ा odd लगता है. Some of the sharks like it, but I get very upset with it. Which is वो on the spot बदल देते हैं. वो बोलते कुछ है, अगर कोई शार्क बोले नहीं ऐसा कर ले या what about this, वो बदल देते हैं अपनी स्टोरी कि हाँ ऐसा करेंगे. So to me, that shows lack of conviction and somebody who's a people pleaser. तो आप वो शार्क को खुश करने के लिए बोल रहे हो. Some sharks like it. हाँ, ये मान गया मेरी बात. Very good. For me, that's a no-no.
People pleasing is a no-no.
People pleasing and lack of conviction. तुम इतनी जल्दी मान गए यार. तुम क्या रिसर्च करके आए थे?
Correct.
किसने कोई नया मॉडल सजेस्ट किया और तुम मान गए? Right? Sure, if you say great idea, I had not considered that because of XYZ reason. इसके बारे में सोचता हूँ मैं, but I don't have enough today to make a decision. I'll respect that. But if you say हाँ ऐसा करते हैं, तो मतलब it's very shallow. So that's a big no-no for me. 3 is not being able to control the narrative. तो आप आ तो जाते हो वहाँ पर, लेकिन you're not able to tell your story effectively.
Okay.
Right? और वो होता है. It's stressful because there are 5 questions coming, but you have had time. You know what you're going in for. So you should practice. You should rehearse. Right? So, and the 4th one is the opposite of that.
Okay.
Trying to control the narrative too much.
Okay.
तो कभी founders आते हैं जो आप कुछ भी बोल लो ना, he'll try to go back to something he has decided he wants to say. Right. So that leaves very little room for exploration.
Got it. Sir, everybody speaks about valuation a lot. But what is the right method to value a company?
ये तो बड़ा भारी भयंकर सवाल पूछा आपने. How to value a company? Yeah, this is a topic around which people have built their entire careers.
Yeah.
एक न्यूयॉर्क यूनिवर्सिटी के प्रोफेसर हैं, अश्वत्थ दामोदरन. You heard of him?
Yeah.
His entire life is built around valuation. And you're asking me in a podcast, how do you value a company? Subscribe to Ashwath Damodaran's classes. Nahin. So, look here, I think valuation in the accounting sense and in the financial analysis sense is very different than what we loosely use the word value and valuation in startups and so on. तो मैं दोनों समझाता हूँ आपको, right? बहुत simple है actually. एक interest free rate होता है, right? Risk free rate, sorry, not interest free rate, which is typically pegged to the US Treasury rate because it's considered the safest. They will never default, although that question is now out. Okay. Nobody knows the truth because sands are shifting as we speak. तो एक रिस्क फ्री रेट होता है, एंड सो इफ यू हैड मनी यू कुड इन्वेस्ट इट ऑन दैट risk free rate and get that rate, whether that's 2%, 3%, 4% a year. It's usually in that range. It had gone to 0, but now it's around 4-5%. Right?
Okay.
If you are going to risk your money, then you need something beyond that risk free rate, right? To take more risk.
Yeah.
Then you can go towards equities, mutual funds. Typically, traditionally, historically, they have returned 12-13%, 10 to 12% a year.
Yeah.
Okay. But those are liquid assets. Now, if you're going to invest in private assets, then you probably need a much higher return. I told you that equity investors typically look at 30% IRR. So valuation is nothing but a discounted value of all your future cash flows to the present by the rate that which you are willing to risk your money for.
Can you help me understand that with an example, sir?
तो अगर कोई कंपनी बना रहा है, let's say ये कप्स बेचने की, we have to figure out firstly what his future cash flows will look like for the next, let's say, 20 years. And after that, there's a concept called terminal value in accounting. You add terminal value to it because as you look out further and further, the value of the future cash flow in today's rupee terms becomes smaller and smaller. So it doesn't have any meaningful impact on the total valuation. All we are concerned about is the valuation for the next 10 to 12 years. The cash flows for the next 10 to 12 years. Right. Plus that terminal value, which becomes very small the longer you look out. So that's where the art comes in. How do you figure out what the cash flows might look like over the next 10, 15 years when you have no data? Right. So typically this applies to companies with a history or a track record of execution, many years of operating and sales experience. It's easier to apply that model. It's called the net present value model.
Okay.
So whatever that interest rate is, let's say it is, you want 15% return to invest in that company because it's somewhat risky, more than the mutual fund. So you want about 15%. So you will discount all future cash flows by 15%. And if the net present value is more than zero, then it's worth the investment.
Okay.
This is for more mature companies and so on. But principally and conceptually, that is what you're trying to do from a heuristic standpoint as well for the startup that you invest in.
Okay.
But because you don't have any operational history, what ends up happening in the startup industry or startup business is valuation becomes a game of supply and demand, not of future cash flow. Somewhere, esoterically, they are connected, especially if you're dealing with sophisticated investors at a very broad level, not at a very specific level. But it becomes a question of supply and demand. So when founders come and tell me, कि सर मेरे को 100 crore का valuation चाहिए, I say, और मेरे को $1 billion चाहिए दे दे और 100 crore का valuation ले जा. So it doesn't matter what you want. The market will determine. Right? You know, sometimes I make an offer to somebody कि चल मैं 1.5 crore रुपए डालता हूँ at a 15 crore valuation. They'll turn around and say, सर ये कैसे हो सकता है, मतलब मेरे को तो मेरा एक्सपेक्टेशन तो 100 crore का वैल्यूएशन. तो ले जा फिर, कोई तेरे को दे रहा है तो ले लेना, मेरे पास क्यों आया. So market determines your valuation, right? If you have buyers at a higher price, you will not sell to me at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
Right. And if I have options to invest in similar companies at cheaper price, why will I invest in you?
Correct.
So startup का यही है, right? That's why when there is momentum and hot markets and there's a lot of hype cycles, valuations go up because demand goes up and supply is less.
Yeah.
And when the market is down, supply is up and demand is low, valuations crash. तो इसलिए उसका graph ऐसे दिखता है.
Got it. So speaking of hype cycles, you know, there's this scene in Silicon Valley. Have you seen Silicon Valley, sir?
Some parts.
In Silicon Valley, there's this very popular scene where there's a guy who's gone broke because he raised too much. So in simple words, if there's an investor, if there are two investors and there's an entrepreneur pitching to both, if one investor offers a 100 crore valuation and the other offers a 10 crore valuation, from what we see on the outside, it looks like obviously the entrepreneur must choose the 100 crore valuation over the 10 crore valuation. But Sanjeev Bikhchandani sir told me something very interesting. He said that the moment you sign up for the 100 crore check, the moment you sign up for the 100 crore valuation, you are supposed to grow much faster because the investor is going to have very high expectations. And I asked him what would be the consequence. He told me that reverse vesting would kick in, where you might have to then roll back your equity and the equity will keep on getting passed on to the investors, because of which at the end of, let's say, 3 years, you will have nothing left.
Yeah, so what it's called is not reverse vesting. I don't know. I've never seen that clause in my life, but it's called anti-dilution. So next time if you raise at less than that valuation, you will make up the investor for the, as if he had invested in the latest value.
Sir, can you simplify this?
तो अगर 100 crore के valuation पर किसने पैसे डाले, उसने डाले 80 crore के valuation पे डाले, 20 crore रुपए डाले, right? तो now your company's valuation is 100 crores and he owns 20%.
Okay.
ठीक है? Now you are out of money after a couple of years. Things did not turn out the way you wanted them to, and now your company needs more capital. So you go to another investor, but he says, यार तूने तो यार मतलब इतना बड़ा नहीं, I still see some potential, but मैं तेरे को 50 crore ही दूंगा valuation. He doesn't have a choice. वो खरीदता है 50 crore में, वो valuation 50 crore में, he takes 10 crores from this new investor.
Okay.
ठीक है? I'm simplifying it a little bit. So now this new investor owns 20%. Correct? The old investor who owned 20%, who gave you 20 crores at 80 crores, needs to be made good as if he invested at 50 crores.
Oh.
So 20 crores of 50 crores is how much? 40%. So now you have to make up that old investor, and abhi tera gaya 40% to the old investor and 20% to the new investor. So you're down to 60% diluted already. If this happens once more,
you're out of the company.
I mean, you have very little left, depending on the valuation and what numbers and all of that.
Got it.
So that's the danger of raising money at high valuations. But the example you use now of 10 crore versus 100 crores is not a realistic example. वो generally होता नहीं है. अगर वो case है तो you're always better off taking the 100 crore valuation. Because 10 crore पे तुम कितना पैसा लोगे? 2 crore लोगे. Right. 100 crore पे 20 crore उठाओगे तो your chances and your take off and your runway become much longer.
Yeah.
So that never happens. It's typically 70-80 crores versus 100 crores, right? And there I agree कि वहाँ पर आपको you shouldn't just look at the color of money. You have to, the color of money is all green, but you have to look at the investor's reputation, what you really need, what your life plan is. जो मैं शुरू में कह रहा था ना, आप as soon as you decide the amount of money you're raising and at what valuation, you have decided your life plan. Okay, most people don't get that.
So a lot of entrepreneurs even think that we can just raise money, take it to a certain valuation, and sell it. Because we often keep hearing these glorifying stories of acquisition, right? What do you have to tell them? If you were to deliver one message to them, what would that message be? And explain the consequences, please.
Yeah, there are people in the world who've made incredible amounts of money by doing only one thing, building amazing companies and selling them. Most of them are in the West, in the US. And they are typically what I call mercenaries.
Okay.
They understand a small niche better than anybody else in the world.
Okay.
Right? Let's take cyber security. So not even that wide. They will understand one niche of cyber security. Let's say penetration testing. Better than anybody else in the world does. And they understand how the whole landscape and the business and tech is evolving. तो वो हर 5 साल में company build करते हैं and they sell it for hundreds of millions of dollars. They'll sell it to Oracle, they'll sell it to Microsoft. They know who the buyers are. Right. They are masters of their craft. ठीक है. But they are the exceptions, not the rule. When you say I want to build a company and मैं बेच दूंगा 5 साल में, if you are coming with that kind of approach and that kind of thinking and you have mastery over that, you've sold your first company, and that's a different case. But if you don't, then it's a hope in hell. Right? Because mergers and acquisitions are not a function of your ability to sell. It's a function of the macro environment. Is it liquid? It's a function of the buyer's appetite. It's a function of business strategy. So those are variables not in your control. So anything that you say about the future is generally not going to come true because it's the future. But as soon as you add variables to it that are not in your control, then it is most certainly not coming true.
Correct.
Because those variables are not in your control. So when you talk about mergers and acquisitions, most times variables are not in your control. Unless, of course, you're the mercenary I spoke about.
And what fundamentally changes once a person builds only to sell?
Yeah, so I think you're asking that a person is building only to exit.
You must have seen such people. And, I've often seen that, if I'm not wrong, I don't know if I saw that in Shark Tank India or the US, but that's what it looked like. The moment the judge understood that this person is building a startup only to sell, that becomes a massive red flag. And it makes everybody furious.
Yeah, because it's basically variables that you cannot control. No? When you say I'm building to sell, it means the world will line up perfectly at the time you want to sell, at the valuation you want to sell, and you will get out and walk into the sunset.
Yeah.
ऐसा होता नहीं. It happens in movies, but it doesn't really work. Real life doesn't work like that. Particularly in India, liquidity is very low. Mergers and acquisition is not that deep or that wide. Right. So I think that's why the red flag, right? Essentially, the view generally is that missionaries, when it comes to startup building, are far better than building and creating value than mercenaries are.
Okay.
And a missionary to me is somebody whose mission it is to try to make this change in the world. Right? They're just so passionate about that particular area, and they know so much about that particular area, and they enjoy the process of creating that product or service more than anything else in the world. So in a sense, it's their life's mission, and hence missionaries. Mercenaries are guys who are looking to flip. And for a certain segment, I think it's fine. But unless you have mastery over a certain discipline, and it's a very liquid discipline like software wars in the last 20, 30 years, which was my point, that these guys were constantly flipping companies to the big MNCs that were constantly buying because they value so much. You need an ecosystem like that to even be a mercenary. India doesn't even have that ecosystem. So as soon as you say that, there's a lot of assumptions in that sentence.
Yeah. So do you read DMs and cold emails?
I do read DMs and cold emails at times, but अभी थोड़ा मुश्किल हो गया because Shark Tank बहुत ज़्यादा आते हैं.
Do you still respond to them? Or have you made investments through a DM or a cold email?
I have made through a DM. I don't remember which one. I made one or two. In fact, you know what? My chief of staff was hired through a DM, but through a cold email.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did the process go?
He's going wonderful. He's the best hire I've made in my life in many ways. He wrote me a long email about wanting to work in the early stage investing area and building startups and why he wanted to work with me. And I thought his email was extremely articulate.
Okay.
And just happened to be that I was looking for somebody like that at that time.
So when you mean by articulate, most people think of it as wordy. But wordy is not articulate, right?
Wordy?
Yeah. As in just too many words.
No. There's a big problem there. That is not being articulate.
Can you help me understand what is the meaning of articulation when you say?
I'll give you an example. I had a recent candidate that I was interviewing. And everybody, 4 people had interviewed her. And 2 of them were very senior people who had interviewed.
Okay.
Everybody said fantastic communication skills. And I was expecting to be floored when I met her. And I thought she had really poor communication skills. And so I failed her.
Okay.
And this gets to your point about being wordy versus having good communication skills. People with good communication skills get to the point. That is called being articulate.
Got it.
Right. People with poor communication skills say things well, but they say the same thing again and again at times. So she was one of those. She didn't ever get to the point. I mean, she did, but she would say the same thing 5 times differently. So to me, that's a sign of weak communication.
And the email that you got from your chief of staff, was it so good because they were very specific about the problem?
They were very clear about what they wanted and why.
Understood. Sir, one last segment that I wanted to cover is about hiring. Is there a particular framework that you would recommend for hiring? This is just for my own problem solving. Because when it comes to hiring insanely capable people, like you mentioned, business acumen and all the values that a person is supposed to possess, what's your method of hiring?
When you're hiring, I'll only talk about very senior people. When you're hiring very senior people, I think the filtering process, जो आपने पहले, उसके पहले हुआ है, other people have interviewed, they've done some other things, means that a certain type of person is coming in front of you. And most people have figured out कि boss interviewing ऐसे करते हैं. What are the right things to say? What are not? There's nothing that you can throw at them, very smart and senior people, that they cannot impress you.
Correct.
With. There is only 2 things that work, in my view. One is multiple meetings. One in office, 2 or 3 outside.
Okay.
High investment of time, but then very high risk of hiring the wrong person. Also, look, you do have breakfast, lunch and dinner. What I suggest is have 2 meals outside with that person.
2 meals. Okay.
One can be breakfast, one can be dinner. खाना तो खाना ही है, उसके साथ बैठ के खाओ. 1.5 घंटे, 90 minutes each time. So 1 meeting in the office, 90 minutes, 2 outside.
Okay.
Breakfast and dinner. Because what happens when you're out, no? It makes people a little more comfortable and less defensive. So you can discover the real person. Right. The objective of an interview should not be to somehow judge that person or grill that person into rejecting them. The objective should be to understand them. Right? No person, they may not be suitable for you. They might still be good. So the idea is to understand them. You can do that over a couple of meals. Right? So I think that's one way. And the other way is unnamed reference checks.
Unnamed?
Unnamed reference checks.
Okay.
Meaning not the ref checks that they have given you. That's just, that's for HR to just check off the boxes. That's just a whole bag of shit. So it's basically people, they don't know you're calling. So use your network to do that. We actually prefer to do unnamed ref checks before we even interview.
Oh.
At least me at my level, I prefer to do at least one unnamed ref check before I interview.
And what do you check, sir?
देखो, you check for red flags. हमारा unnamed ref check कैसे होता है ना? अभी given the amount of time we've been around, कोई ना कोई network से कोई होता ही है. तो typically it's one WhatsApp interviewing Ganesh. Yes, no. ऐसा ही हमारा WhatsApp होता है. It's just a red flag.
Okay. And if I have to do it, then what should I ask?
If you have to do it.
With very less network.
The best question to ask, because India में कोई जल्दी किसी के बारे में सच नहीं बोलता. The best question to ask is, would you hire him again? That forces honesty. Why or why not?
Got it. So how do you check ethics in a person during an interview?
Track record. Ethics or integrity, there's only one way. That's why. So after the interview, we do several unnamed ref checks. I mean, we do 2-3 ref checks. And ref checks, there's an art to it. If you just call up somebody and say, how is this person? That's the shittiest ref checks.
Sir, walk me through that art, no?
So ref checks is, the more specific you are, the general guideline is the more specific you are, the better it is. So you have to first and foremost disarm the other person, right? Let's say you don't know them very well. You have to say, look, I really appreciate you doing this. And I just want to assure you of one thing. Whatever we speak about is 100% confidential. And you know why it's 100% confidential? Because I know someday you might call me for a ref check and I would like to be completely honest with you. So therefore, whatever you tell me, I will keep completely confidential. Now that has kind of also said that someday you might need me, bro. Right? So that sets the stage.
Okay.
After that, you want to kind of dig in very specific areas, right? You also don't want the call to become 2 hours because then they'll never be available next time. Ideally, you want to wrap it up in 15-20 minutes while being very specific. So the areas that you've discovered are concern areas for you. Those are the areas you want to go down, right? If you thought that there was some emotional imbalance during your interview process, that's a concern for you. You might want to lean in there and say, you know, in your 3 years of working with this person, did they ever fly off the handle? Did you see any sign of emotional instability? Or you might end with saying, do you think helping them emotionally is a path of development for them?
That's such a beautiful way of asking, sir.
Right. So you have to make the person feel comfortable and not put the obligation of determining this person's life on them, because then they'll say nice things.
Correct. So it's like you're asking, is this guy mad? Instead of saying that, you're saying, does this guy need emotional help?
How can I help them when I hire them? How can I help them? Can I provide emotional assistance? That'll help you understand. And you said when I hire them. So now you've taken off the burden of hiring or not hiring from them. So they can speak more freely.
That is so intricate, sir. How did you discover this?
ये सब करके ही होता है भाई.
ये तो बहुत ही बढ़िया चीज़ है.
समझ के समझना पड़ता है.
Sir, tolerance of ego often comes with, ego without talent is a no-brainer. But ego with talent is something that becomes difficult to handle, especially in an environment where there are too many talented people and they all have egos. And ego management is one of the most critical jobs of a leader. Have you ever been in this place where you're supposed to manage egos to get some competent people to work together?
Yeah, of course. Which leader has not? I think everybody who's run a company at some point or the other has to do that. And I think, it happens, but if you've hired the right people and they're mature enough, I think you can make them see the fallacy and butting heads with other people. I think a couple of ways are simply to, you have to bring it out in a way that they understand that you really appreciate their contribution to the company, but you're not dependent on them for anything. And that's an art. Because you don't want that person leaving with the feeling that this guy might replace me. You want them leaving with the feeling that I'm really valued in this organization, but I need to check my behavior.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, buddy.
This has been amazing.